Hello, this is Kenneth Alvarado. I'm going to do my persuasive speech on the conditions on how to catch a redfish. I have taken no notes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go strictly from experience. I've been fishing the Gulf of Mexico for over 20 years and I have caught over 1,000 redfish. When people ask me, do I think conditions are important for catching fish, I absolutely do. It depends on the winds, the tides, the temperature, the time of the day. All these come into effect when you go out fishing for redfish. One reason that I really tell people that you need to watch your conditions are, we have a camp down in Cocodrie, Louisiana. So I have the privilege of going down there for 2 or 3 days and fishing with really no expense. I have the lodging, we have ice machines, we have the boat. Really the only expense we have is the gas going down there and the gas to put in the boat and our bait. So when I tell people you need to watch your conditions, you can see the tides and the weather 2 or 3 weeks out in advance. So when you look at the cost of going on a fishing trip, you have to look at it. If you got 4 guys going, you're going to spend about $300 a night for lodging. You're going to spend around $100 to $125 per person on all their food and drinks. You're going to spend, like I said, around $50 on bait, around $50, $60 on ice. You're going to spend about $150 to gas up your boat. You're going to have other small costs in there. You might go out to dinner one night. Down in Cocodrie, there's 2 or 3 places to go. You're looking at an average of $15 a meal. If you have drinks, obviously it's going to be more expensive. So you want to make sure your conditions are right. That's, if you add that up, it's about $1,400, give or take 100. That's about $300, $350 a person. So conditions are really what you're looking for when you're going fishing. The next thing that you need to know the habits of your fish. Redfish, they're bottom feeding fish. They hug the marsh. They like shallow water. The reason they like shallow water is because they like to be in temperature around 50 to 80 degrees. When they're in the shallow water, the sun, obviously the sun hits the water. It's shallower, so it warms the water up. In my opinion, the best time to fish redfish is early in the morning or late in the afternoon. The best time for the tide is when the tide's coming in. A lot of people like to fish the tide going out. I like to fish the tide coming in. One reason for that is when the tide's coming in, it's pushing all the bait fish up. The shrimp, the little crabs, all the little items that the redfish like to eat. And what they do is they push, when the bait fish comes in, they hit that marsh. Well, when they hit that marsh, they swim in and out of the marsh, so they basically stay there. The redfish, they have what they call points. When the marsh is coming, a lot of the times the marsh will come in. It'll what they call a U in the marsh. Well, as they come in, these are called points, right as they come in. And what happens is the redfish sit inside those pockets. As the bait fish hit and they come around that point, the redfish are there to eat them. Obviously when it goes into that point, it shallows up. So that's a perfect place to go fishing. You want to have little to no wind. Having wind 10-15 miles an hour is not a good time to fish. So other areas you want to fish what they call locks, which is just a bunch of rocks stacked up. That algae gets on it. The little bait fish, shrimp, they go and eat the algae. Redfish hang out around there. You want to, like I said, you want to look for streaming water coming out of points. When that streaming water's coming through, it means it's pushing bait shrimp through. The redfish stay there. So there are conditions that you need to fish by. I have seen many people go out and spend hours and hours fishing and come back with nothing. Me being one of them, many a times. So what I've done in the past, probably the past 8 to 10 years, is when I go out and I start catching fish, redfish, I have a book in the boat, and I'll pull the book out and I'll say, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon, it's about 85 degrees, I'm fishing with this. You don't want to fish, when you throw into the bank, you don't want to fish more. You want your cork 3 feet from the bank at the furthest. If you're 6, 7, 8, 9 feet out, the likelihood of a redfish coming that far out to take your bait is very slim. So I'm going to conclude with 3 things. One is the most important thing to me is the tide. 2 is the wind, and 3 is the time of day. So I'm looking for the tide coming in, I'm looking for little to no wind, and I like to go out either early in the morning, get out there, leave around 5:30 in the morning, and usually come back in around 9:30. Hopefully get out there about 5:30 and be back in by 6:30 because we limit it out. Or then we'd like to go out around 5, get out there, find a few spots, and once the sun starts going down, then we start catching some fish. So that is my persuasive speech. There are things that I live by when I fish, and what I've described to you in this speech are the conditions that I fish. So thank you, and are there any questions?